JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, September 4th, 3:30 on a fine afternoon. Talk really quick about the markets. Some of the names I'm looking at go from there. S&P in the green, up about 0.6%. Finally in the green on the week. Small caps, which were solidly in the red, they're up nearly 1% today. Also in the green for the week. And looks like it's going to be 5 sessions in a row, 5 weeks in a row for small caps. Uh, but impressive strength amidst what could be some. I wouldn't say it a binary event tomorrow, but it's like I keep talking about the jobs report and what what would happen, right? So if this huge beat on estimates, I think estimates are like 74,000 jobs created, 4.2% unemployment rate. If there's anything huge to the upside, like what happens to the market? What is the probability of the Fed cutting rates? What is that? So it's like I remember back in the day, it used to be bad news was good news for markets, right? People didn't want uh, good data because that meant that the Fed might be less accommodative, right? They might raise rates, not cut rates, what have you. So it almost feels like we're in that environment where if we have this big beat on the jobs number and the revision, maybe some upward revisions to the previous months, and maybe the unemployment ticks down, I mean, then you got to put in question the 97% probability of a rate cut come Wednesday, next Wednesday. So we'll see. I don't think that's going to be the outcome, but you never know, especially in light of all the other data that's come out where that has been put in question. I mean, meanwhile, the revisions to job number, it's almost like um, a normality, right? It always happens. It's just that it was such a large size and amidst all the things going on in turmoil with the tariffs that it just created a story. And then, of course, the current administration coming attacking the BLS and things like that. So, Ah, anyway, today this week has kind of been one of those weeks. UPB used to say it's like when you get your finger stuck in the electrical outlet and you can't pull it out because you're getting zapped, right? And you need someone to like push you off the electrical outlet. It's like, or like the goats, right? That when they get scared, they freeze and they just sit there. It's kind of how I feel this week. Sometimes that's good, right? Because then you're not chasing trades, not chasing bias or things like that. On the flip side, you might miss opportunities. And there's moves this week on some of the names, but names that I wouldn't have traded much this week outside of maybe Reddit. So that kind of has helped me on the call side. Take a look. I mean, ISRG today, maybe I would have probably for a bounce after looking at it yesterday. Some of the mega cap names, I mean, Amazon, obviously Apple's doing well here today. Um, and Wayfair. I'm taking a look at Wayfair off its lows since April Liberation Days, figuring with what went on with the tariff headlines last week of Trump weighing tariffs on furniture from to protect uh, manufacturing in the U.S. Then you had RH and W selling off last Friday. I mean, then you see them are almost back, and it just makes me a little worried to trade some of these names. So in lieu of that, I'm just you just sit and try and find opportunities. Earnings after the close today. Lots of them. Well, DocuSign, Broadcom, Lulu. DoCu is one of those names. If I had any conviction, I think that one's going to trade higher. But it's similar to trying to think of some of the names that I always think that COVID kind of created this case for them. A lot of names of Peloton. So and then there's names that they think they're going to go away, like the Zoom, right? So it's like DocuSign and Zoom are very similar, right? The adoption accelerated into COVID, and then now those companies are priced like, hey, some of these other companies are going to just eat their lunch in regards to DocuSign, Adobe, so AI. Anyway, I always talk about DocuSign. It was a verb, right? And the John Hancock turned into the DocuSign, right? Hey, you got your documents? Yeah, I DocuSigned them. And so real estate transactions, things of that nature. All right, so that's that. Broadcom too. I mean, it's going to be. Am I right with Broadcom? I think they report after the close, right? Why am I? Let's see. I could take by the premiums. 306 was all the way up to 3010 at the open. Yeah, implied move $17, so over 5%. I mean, yeah, 340, 350. I mean, that's a lot of valuation for it to get up there, but the 340 strikes are 58 by 60 on Broadcom. Not my forte there. On the flip side, it's like you look at Lulu, and you saw what happened with American Eagle and their big uh, viral situation. And they created an ad that got folks looking at the brand, right? And whether there's folks that don't agree with the advertisement, there's folks that believe, but all it did is create awareness around the brand, and then the people who are supporters and love it, maybe they shop more, right? And then hopefully we've seen situations in the past where you have some of these companies, alienate a consumer base. I don't know if they did that with American Eagle, but then you have the earnings. That's like, wow, it just kind of validated their marketing, right? So now you look at some of these other names, and it's, I was talking at the start of the week, like Lulu. I'm like, is Lulu going to go the way of like the Under Armours, right? Where it kind of is, it's stuck, its days of hyper growth and hyper valuation are over? Or is it just kind of like stuck in a rut and then, weighed down on the tariff worries, inventory worries, and things like that? And then it's just going to take one earnings for it to get going again. So, I look at, MDB was a good example of, hey, they had great earnings but the last quarter, and then the next quarter was like, okay, first quarter was like, show me, stock gapped, and then it sold off. And then the second quarter, it was great earnings, and it was like, okay, you showed us, and then stock went bonkers, right? I don't know if the same happens here with Lulu. It's just, I was looking at the 260s earlier, and I had like a running tally on where the 260s were, and they're still 57 by 58. The stock was at 203 earlier. They were 51 by 56 and 56 by 61. So it's really trying to get some calls for premium build the day of on Lulu just wouldn't have worked unless you got them yesterday. The 260 calls are up 40%. So I'll watch. If I was playing Lulu and DocuSign, I'm DocuSign to the premiums. I didn't even look because again, another name I don't have conviction on. So I haven't done many trades this week, and it'd be the worst to kind of just. I'm not just going to trade it because I have, somewhat of a bullish skew on it. But the 90 strikes that expired tomorrow, 46 by 53 to stocks, $75, $8 implied move. So was that 11-12%? Anyway, so that's kind of some of the names I'm looking at. Take a little amount of stock trading over the 200-day moving average. That's up over 3%. And then yields, which, 2 days ago, you had to worry that of the 30 years going over 5%. We're going to get back to that story about yields. And boom, yields go down. It's funny how like all these different stories just change. So now, like this week, it's like the ninja trade they call it, right? Folks going into Japan equities as the next leg of growth. And wasn't it just a couple months ago with the new administration there in Japan? They're very hawkish, and people thought that was going to cause 5 or 10 more years of their flat to no growth. So, and Japan's, if you look at exhibits, and I don't know if it was like 2014, I wrote this whole article why I thought the market was heading higher, but I always talk about like growth, right? As a country, there's only a couple ways you can grow your country. You can be more productive, right? More efficient, or you can have more population, right? I mean, or currency, like U.S. dollar goes up by just as a function of that, it creates more value. So you look at Japan, and Japan's like an exhibit on how a declining population growth or flat population growth is going to be an issue at some point. But then again, you have AI, robots, and all that other stuff that might create more efficiency. So rants for other days. All right, so yields, but anyway, gets to my point is like, it's funny how they switch every couple months. They went from Japan's going to cause the next big correction or bear market. It's the canary in the coal mine, the swan, right? Folks are pulling out of the U.S. Debt market, the treasuries. Japan, which holds a lot of U.S. debt, is selling it because they're worried, right? And then now you hear, oh, now you should invest in Japan. That's the next leg, the next market that's going to go. Same with China, right? Everybody's talking about China, and then overnight last night you have reports out from Reuters or Bloomberg, one of those outlets, saying China is looking for ways to slow down the hot market and speculative trades in tech. That's just crazy. All right, overall markets now individually. I mean, this Reddit pincher, it's still sitting there, and it's similar to looking at Lulu this morning. I missed the first run up here in Reddit, and then I just passed just again because I haven't done much this week. I don't want to like pour salt in the proverbial wounds. So it's sitting here at 232. Maybe tomorrow is a hinge on the jobs report. And same with GameStop, still pinching as well. And yesterday down. The day before looked like it was going to break out. You thought, hey, maybe that was the start of it. So still being patient there. IIPR all the way up. It was like a spike at 11 o'clock. Someone said, okay, I'm going to acquire IIPR. Got their broker, whoever, hey, buy me 50,000 shares. And the stock went from 55 all the way up to 57. 57.50, the big spot. I was actually looking at October 65s. I'll just continue to hold the October 60s. And then disappointing on the head side, right? Hood under its 50-day moving average 2 days in a row. You thought if there's any weakness in the market, this could be an opportunity for it to consolidate or pull maybe down to 93 or even lower if it breaks 93. And then sure enough, boom, it was 101, then it opens 102, and then just off to the races. A name I'll possibly revisit tomorrow, depending. Serve Robotics, 975. That broke all the way down to 957 at 11. And then it's bouncing here. I'm not going to try and a time of bottom here just yet, but last time I got calls, it was right around 97 holding, and then we had that Wedbush initiation, and then it stopped. The calls were up a couple 100%. So I'm not sure there'll be deja vu, but maybe tomorrow I'll look for some later dated strikes. And then Biogen, right? I mean, just disappointing. I mean, I don't know if it's people. There's just people in there from a long time that are just trying to get out, but it's like they just used the opportunities yesterday's move to just sell off from 145 all the way down to 137 at about 12:30. Still a name I'll have on watch. I don't know, tomorrow, depending on what the risk reward looks on some of the premiums into next week, maybe I'll get some strikes there. And that's it, folks. I'm out of breath. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.